What is up, friends? Here for a different type of video today. I know it's been quite a while, almost 2 years now, since the last Blu-ray video I did, which was the only Blu-ray video, just going through my whole collection, but I've wanted to kind of get back into doing more of those, especially leading up to another full collection video, hopefully soon, over the next couple months. But recently there was the Criterion sale on Criterion.com. Always love that. Usually gets me a bit harder than I would like.
Hey, yo!
But I thought that would be a good video to start because the package that I ordered from there recently came in, and originally when I first went on there I was going to just get a couple as it usually starts out, but I ended up getting, I think, 43.
Oh no!
And so they robbed me blind, but I thought this would be a good video to get back into the Blu-ray stuff, since there will be a lot to go through, and they're mostly ones that I haven't seen, if not all ones that I haven't seen, but I can talk a little bit about why I picked them, or what I'm most excited about. And so hopefully you guys enjoy watching along for this. Let me know if you would enjoy seeing more either Blu-ray collection videos, unboxings, things like that, just to mix it up a little bit. And so I've got the box right here ready to go, and so I will go ahead and dig into it.
Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! SpongeBob, careful! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob!
Okay, so I gotta open, and I just hope, as is the worry with ordering big packages of movies like this, that none of them are damaged or anything like that. But Criterion in the past has been really helpful if they are damaged. But I'm ready to get into it. We'll just start off with one that I actually have seen. It's a surprise, which is Moonrise Kingdom. Love Wes Anderson, and it's been a few years since I watched this one, but I just had the regular Blu-ray before, so I wanted to just upgrade, I guess you could say, to this version. Looking forward to checking it out again eventually, but that is number one here. But then we got another Wes Anderson that I really want to see that I haven't seen, Fantastic Mr. Fox. As with most of his movies though, I've heard great things, so I'm expecting good things with this one. Hopefully going to check that one out for the channel soon. And then next up we have The Man Who Knew Too Much, Alfred Hitchcock, the legend himself. I've been really wanting to get into more of his stuff because I've seen some of it, obviously watched one for the channel with Vertigo, but I feel like there's so much of his work that I haven't gotten into, and so hopefully this and a lot of others that I've gotten recently will give me a good place to start. But then next up we have Insignificance, which is by a director I'm going to mispronounce, Nicolas Roeg or something like that. I probably am way off, but I'm not too familiar with him, but I've heard that he's pretty good, and just from the ratings that I briefly looked up, seems like this is a good pick, and so looking forward to eventually seeing that one. And of course, if you have any thoughts about the ones that I'm pulling out here, definitely let me know. Would love to hear your thoughts on it, maybe what ones you're excited to see for videos later on. But next up we've got Lost in America, which I bought mainly because Julie Haggerty is in the cast, and if you've watched some of my videos recently, you would know that I loved her in Airplane and just that whole movie overall, and so I'm hoping to get another good performance from her in this movie, so excited to check that one out. Then we've got The Graduate, one that I've heard mentioned a bunch of times in the past, and obviously Dustin Hoffman is an excellent actor in everything that I've seen him in, and so looking forward to eventually watching that one. And next up we have The Virgin Suicides, which I think is Sofia Coppola's first movie if I remember correctly, but obviously really loved Lost in Translation, and then recently watched her film that came out either last year or the year before called On the Rocks. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but I also really loved that one, and so been wanting to check out more of her work, and so looking forward to seeing this one. Next we've got War and Peace by a director who I'm not even going to try to pronounce right now, and this is a movie that I bought just going off the name. I've heard it mentioned a bunch of times, not really sure what it's about or anything like that, but I would assume if I hear it mentioned a bunch that it's got a lot of merit to it, and so eventually I'll get around to that one. Next up we've got Othello, I assume is how you pronounce it, by Orson Welles, who is maybe the director that I've heard the most about but seen the least from, and so I've really been wanting to get into more of his films because he is definitely one of the most frequently mentioned names as far as influential filmmakers go, at least in my experience, what I've heard people say. And so I've been really wanting to check out his work, and I don't know if this would be the first one that I watch by him. I've gotten a couple others from him that I would want to check out maybe first, but it's definitely on the list. And the next one that I think is going to be the first of quite a few from this order from Akira Kurosawa's filmography, which is Rashomon, I would guess is the pronunciation. Some of these are more difficult than others, but obviously I was a huge fan of Seven Samurai, and because of his incredible direction of that, I wanted to check out pretty much all the other movies he's made. And from what I can tell, it seems like almost every one of his films is pretty highly regarded, and so I don't think you can really go wrong with any of his films. And so I've pretty much picked up most of his work just anytime I see it on sale. And next up, we've got another Akira Kurosawa film with High and Low. I don't know how many I got from him in this order, but I think probably at least 4 or 5, if not more, but we will see. I don't really know too much about any of these films that I bought from him. I've really just been purchasing them just based off his name alone. He's got that kind of power, and so I'm expecting great things from him. Next up, we have Notorious, which is another Alfred Hitchcock film. Excited for any of his films that I fit into the schedule, and so I think my most anticipated of his, though, right now is North by Northwest. Is one that I've been really wanting to see for a while, but I don't think I'm not looking forward to any of his work, so this is definitely high up on the list as well. And then next we have the original 3:10 to Yuma. I also bought a long time ago, either on Black Friday or something like that, the remake, I believe. I don't think it's a sequel, the other 3:10 to Yuma. Haven't watched that one either, but I figured this one is probably the better one to watch first, and then I can watch the remake and kind of compare them. But I figured this one is probably pretty good if they considered making a updated version, a modern version, and so looking forward to checking this one out eventually. And the next film on the list is another Akira Kurosawa film. I told you there was going to be a lot, but this one is Throne of Blood. Don't have too much else to add about this one, but definitely one of my most anticipated filmmakers to kind of get through all of his filmography. Just feel like he's got such a talent based off what I've seen so far. And then we have Rebecca, which we've kind of got a theme right now between two directors. This one's another Alfred Hitchcock, but I think in the past some of their films weren't available during certain Criterion sales, so I kind of went extra hard in picking these ones up this time around. But I'm not really familiar with the actors that are listed on the cover of this one, and so I assume they give pretty good performances. Hitchcock usually can get something pretty good out of his actors, and so that's the next one on the list. And obviously I'm not grabbing these in any particular order or anything. I don't think they really organized them in the package, but the next film we've got is The Hidden Fortress. Guess Who? Akira Kurosawa, even more than I'd remembered buying from him, and so I feel like I've gotten pretty close to having most of his films that are at least offered from Criterion up to this point, because I've gotten some in the past as well, but can't wait to dive more into him. Let me know which of his films is your favorite other than Seven Samurai, since I've already checked that one out, because whatever you guys recommend I would probably put at the top of my list to watch next. Next we've got The Age of Innocence, which I'm very excited to watch this one. Not only is it directed by Martin Scorsese, but it's also got Daniel Day-Lewis and some other good actresses as well, Winona Ryder and Michelle Pfeiffer, but specifically the Day-Lewis and Scorsese combination just feels like it's too big to fail. We have Throwdown, which is by a director who I'm not familiar with, but I believe I looked this up and saw that it was pretty highly rated, and so it just made me feel like it was worth checking out. Sometimes when I blind buy stuff, I'll usually just look up the rating on Letterboxd, because I have a pretty good trust in that rating scale that it would be at least something worth checking out, and so there may be a couple of those films like that in here where I don't really know anything about it, but I just went based off kind of the collective rating. And then we have Shallow Grave, which is by Danny Boyle, a filmmaker who I enjoy, and it's got Ewan McGregor in it, one of my favorite actors. Obviously got Kenobi coming up, which I'm excited for, but I will watch pretty much anything that Danny Boyle makes because he has made some great stuff in the past. I think we're at least over halfway done by this point. point. Don't have too many left, but we've got Taste of Cherry next, and some of the visuals and stuff that I was seeing advertised for this really drew me in. It seems like a film that's got some amazing cinematography, if I remember correctly, and so that's the main reason I'm looking forward to this. I'm not familiar with the director, but I did see his name brought up quite a few times for different titles on Criterion, so I would assume he's had a pretty good career, and I am looking forward to watching this one. And next is maybe one of my most anticipated releases that I purchased here, which is called Decalogue. I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but it came on my radar after I saw Spielberg mention it as, I think, his favorite piece of media, he said, and it seems to be one of the highest rated in general pieces of media ever made. I believe it's just kind of like a short series. It's not just a typical movie, but that alone has made me really interested to see if the hype is worth it and what exactly the whole story's about. And as a movie collector, I always enjoy having a bit of a beefier box, and so I like the size of this one. It'll look nice on the shelf. Continuing on, we've got High Sierra, which the name that caught my eye on this one is Humphrey Bogart, obviously a big name from the past, and so I'm looking forward to seeing him in this. And then the next film I've got here is, I think you say Japan or Japan, I'm not exactly sure. Both of those could have been wrong, but I remember reading the synopsis for this and being interested. Couldn't tell you now because it's been a few weeks since I ordered this, and so looking forward to checking it out though. And next up we have House of Games, which originally enticed me just because the cover is really cool. That's the case sometimes with a lot of movies though, is the artwork really draws me in and piques my interest, but I remember reading the synopsis of this one as well and it intrigued me. Wish I could say more about it, but eventually I will have more to say once I watch it. Okay, and then we've got Repo Man, which I think is definitely one of the cooler pieces of artwork that Criterion has, at least that I've seen, but I've heard this one mentioned quite a bit, and just based off the general opinion around it, it was enough to convince me to order it. And I don't know how many people who watch my channel also collect a lot of physical media, so some of you may be thinking that I'm crazy for buying a bunch of films that I haven't seen, but I love supporting physical media and especially smaller companies that put them out like Criterion, and so I usually haven't watched a Criterion film that I've just straight up disliked, and so I feel pretty comfortable ordering from them at this point. But the next film we've got coming up is from a director that I'm pretty familiar with, which is Steven Soderbergh. Really like a lot of his work, and I feel like he's got a very creative vision in a lot of his films, but this one is Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which, because I am a fan of his, I didn't really look up too much just to keep up the surprise, so I'm looking forward to visiting this one at some point. And my next pull here is The Fugitive Kind, which is by Sidney Lumet. After 12 Angry Men, he has pretty much jumped near the top of my list of directors to check out more of their work. Just an amazing film, and you've got Marlon Brando in this, so can't go wrong with a performance from him, I assume, at least, and so can't wait to jump into this one. The next one that I've got here is Until the End of the World, which I liked the cover when I first saw it released, but it never really jumped out to me too much as one I wanted to get. But when I looked farther into it and kind of learned more about Wim Wenders and his filmography, I kind of really wanted to check it out, and so I've picked up a couple of his films recently and looking forward to jumping into his work. I don't think I've seen any of his movies up to this point. Next we've got Picnic at Hanging Rock by Peter Weir. Don't really have too much to say about this one, kind of one of those that looked up stuff briefly and what people were saying about it, and it was enough to convince me to get it, and so that is the next one. Now we've got Walkabout, which is another Nicholas Roeg, or Rogue, I'll have to look up afterwards how exactly to pronounce his name, but again, a director that I've wanted to see some of his films, and then if I enjoy it, I'll go through the rest of his filmography as well. And then we've got another Alfred Hitchcock Hitchcock film, this time with Foreign Correspondent. I don't have to know anything about a Hitchcock film to want to see it, because he hasn't let me down yet, and obviously one of the greatest directors of all time for a reason. And then we've got Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which I've seen a lot of memes from, at least I think so, and so it's kind of one of those films that I just want to see, mainly for its pop culture impact and just because I see it brought up a lot. And then we've got a bigger box set right here with Red River, which is a John Wayne series. I think it's 2 films if I remember correctly, but I am not really familiar at all with John Wayne's work. Obviously know who he is, and I've seen some clips in the past, but been really wanting to see some of his earlier films and just see what all the hype around him is about, since he was kind of one of the biggest names in film for a while. And now we're down to the last 10, which is headlined here with another Alfred Hitchcock film, Lady Vanishes. I've said enough about him at this point, so I don't need to say anything else. And then we've got the first Terrence Malick film in the group. I've got a couple other of his Criterion releases in the other room, but I think this may have been my only one from him in this order. Another director who I've been wanting to watch a lot more of. He's got an amazing visual style. And then we have Dressed to Kill, Brian De Palma at the helm. Amazing director. Love Scarface, love a lot of his other films as well, the couple others that I've seen, and so there wasn't too much convincing that had to go over for me to want to get this one. And then we've got, I think, the biggest box set in this order at least, which is kind of disappointing that it's got a bit of damage here at the bottom. I don't know if you can see from that distance, and it's got some other damage on the edges, and so I'll see if I can maybe get this case replaced, but it's the complete Jacques Tati, I think that's how you pronounce it. But just from the little bit that I saw and from what people were saying, it seems like he's got a style that would really resonate well with me. Got a bit of a lighter feel to it, just judging off some of the synopsis. Next up, we've got another director who I really like previously to this order, which is Alfonso Cuarón. Obviously got quite a lot of amazing films in his filmography. This is one that I haven't seen, Y Tu Mama Tambien, and haven't really heard too much about it. I have heard it's kind of a spicy movie though, and so we'll see how I feel about it once I get around to it. Then we've got Do the Right Thing, which I love the case and the artwork and the colors of this, by Spike Lee. I don't know if I've seen any of his films before, but definitely been a director that I've wanted to watch a lot more of his stuff. Then we've got another bit of a set here with the Coker trilogy, a director that we've had one film from in the past here, but I'm not going to try and pronounce his name this time. But another one of those things where I looked up kind of what people were saying about it, and just based off the kind of storyline that I read, seemed like it would interest me. And you may notice here that oftentimes it doesn't take a whole lot to convince me to get some physical media. I definitely can't get enough. But this next set is one I'm very excited to check out, which is the Bruce Lee Greatest Hits, especially after the Raid 1 and the Raid 2 recently, which may be the best action movies I've ever seen. I've been craving some more of that style of action, and it feels like Bruce Lee is a great place to go to get some of that. And so I know all of the films in this set, at least if I remember correctly, aren't the highest rated ones of his work, but especially Enter the Dragon is one that I've been wanting to see for quite a while. And then we have The Piano, which is a pretty recent release from Criterion, if I remember correctly. It's also a 4K release, which they've been doing recently, which is awesome. More of that, hopefully, but just based off reading the plot and everything, it interested me, so I thought I'd pick it up, especially since it was on sale and it's a recent release. And then we are down to our last release finally. Felt like it would never end there for a moment, but kind of a cool little trilogy of films here, just based off the title, just Blue, White, and Red, which are films by, good luck pronouncing that name, I have no shot, but it seems like there's some really interesting, maybe experimental a little bit films, just judging off what I've read. but excited to see these as well. And the cover is really cool, kind of minimalist artwork almost. Reminds me a little bit of the 2001 A Space Odyssey scene if you look at it for a couple seconds. But that is my massive Criterion order here. Hopefully you saw some interesting titles in there. Looking forward to any of your thoughts about any of the titles that I got, maybe which ones you'd like to see me watch first. I don't know if all of them are films necessarily that I would do videos for on the channel individually, but there's definitely a couple in there that would be guarantees. Obviously Hitchcock and Kurosawa were the main players in this set, and so really looking forward to getting into those. But hopefully you enjoyed watching along for my little unboxing here. Let me know again if you would like to see more stuff like this, because I order a lot of movies, and so there would definitely be plenty of opportunities to do this. But if you did enjoy, definitely consider leaving a thumbs up, helps the videos out. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, that opportunity is available on Patreon. You get a lot of extra stuff there. But until the next video, look forward to seeing you all later. Peace.